Hello, welcome to our Nasco webinar today. This is part of an ongoing series that Nasco is doing to bring professional development to teachers and have conversations about products, about solutions that many teachers are looking for right now. And after the spring that we had preparing for summer, not knowing what was coming, our family and consumer sciences conversations were very much, how do you make a hands-on learning experience in a virtual world? And there's a lot of amazing, innovative things that are happening across the country. And so I'm very excited to bring to you today about some FCS classrooms that are happening. And I'm so very thankful to Tracey and Sarah for joining us today. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I'm so excited. We've been chatting as we prepared for this webinar, and I think that the knowledge and the brilliance that both of these amazing educators will bring to the table is going to make for a really wonderful webinar today. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I know that we've got a good number of people online with us, and if you're able to attend live, that's fantastic. And because of time zones, I know that some amazing educators are also watching this recorded, and that's fantastic as well. If you are live, please do make use of the question box. We would love to have a conversation at the end of a couple of presentations that Tracey and Sarah are going to do. So our format is going to be, Tracey's going to go first, talk about FCS in a middle school classroom right now and some of the things that she's doing, followed by Sarah talking about her high school classroom. And then we'll open it up for a broad conversation to you all. Unfortunately, because of the webinar format, please do type into that question box any comments, any questions you have, and I will be voicing them and bringing it up to our experts of Tracey and Sarah. So without any other further ado, I want to introduce these two amazing educators. Tracey Jillison spent 9 years working, 9 years at the University of New Hampshire in the Family Life Skills program. She specifically was working with families moving into the workforce, and then she spent 9 years as a family consumer science educator at Keene High School, teaching grades 9 to 12 before teaching now at the middle school level, which she's been doing for about 6 years, with focusing on grades 6 through 8. So she's got a lot of amazing experience behind her, and also is a consultant for New Hampshire schools, getting family and consumer sciences into their curriculums, and was a mentor for SAU 29. Sarah Salvator has been teaching at the Brunswick High School for 9 years in Ohio. Her first 4 years, she taught all seniors and then switched to sophomores for cooking and freshmen for a transition class. She teaches 3 different courses: cooking and nutrition, gourmet, and freshman seminar, as well as coaches junior varsity cheer for football and basketball, and is a link crew coordinator. Sarah also has been married for 7 years to a general restaurant manager, so food is a huge part of her life. And they have 2 dogs, Simba and Lilo, and she has 3 nieces and 4 nephews, and loves going out to eat at family-owned or individually owned restaurants, doing weekend getaways and watching live sports, as well as binge watching things on Netflix, Disney, and Hulu. So a little bit about who these amazing educators are, kind of at a personal level and a professional level. And again, without any other further ado, I want to hand this over to Tracey to kick off our conversation about what's happening in her classroom in New Hampshire.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you're in with us today. I am teaching in Keene, New Hampshire, Family Consumer Science at our middle school. And I'm just going to start my little slideshow here for you, just to give you a little bit of background. So we're a middle school that we're located in Southwest New Hampshire, one of the largest middle schools in the state. And we currently have 689 students in grades 6 through 8. And we are running both a hybrid and a remote schedule for the 2020-21 year. All of us teachers at the school are doing hybrid and remote classes and are available to students for help during the week. And as you can imagine, just being remote last year, we're really very happy to be in a hybrid schedule. And parents are the ones that decide if their children are going to be into remote. And we're doing both. And as you can imagine, it's kind of tough keeping track, but we managed to do it. And I think that the biggest thing is making sure that our kids get to see us, get to speak with us, and it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge this year. So how do we meet those educational needs? Pacing guides that we developed several years ago, and basically what we're doing is using standards from each unit in the pacing guides. I went personally through my units, choosing the ones that I felt that were the most important aspects of the unit. We also got some resources and shared them within our teams. Last spring, we very quickly set up Google Classrooms and Google Meets and a daily schedule for our students with an attendance piece that was built in. And that was really key for making sure that we were seeing our kids. This year, students that are hybrid come in 2 days a week with assignments in Google Classroom the other day. So we're running a Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday schedule, and Wednesday is all remote. Students that are fully remote attend classes daily in Google Meet and assignments in Google Classroom as well. And I have to say, Google Classroom has been a blessing for us because you can do so much in there. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share a few resources that I have and that we figured out. And we had like 1 week to get up and running. And when I think about it, it's really amazing that we did it as quickly as we did and still felt like we were giving our kids some tools and that they were really getting something out of the meets. So some of the constraints, it took a lot of organization to keep up with the AB schedule every other day. We do see our remote kids less. Safety and sanitation in the labs is key, and it's really kind of time consuming. I will be honest though, 95% of what we do now, we did before. Okay, so the safety and sanitation has been there. The extra has been kids wear gloves now. They have to have masks on the entire time that they're in our labs. We do have really good ventilation that's been upgraded. You're wiping down all those high touch areas a little bit more. So that's about the 5% that we didn't do before as much. I have to tell you, the first 6 weeks of school, we had a longer advisory period, and we used that time to be with our kids, to build those relationships, and we front loaded a lot of expectations in the labs. So it's helpful when starting out to prepare food. It's safer for the kids as well. Kids now have to be very, very aware of their time management because our kids are walked from class to class. So we don't allow them to just kind of leave your class and go. And we do have smaller classrooms. So basically, whatever classes that you would have before have been cut in half. So I have anywhere from 6 to 7 kids every day in my classes. And I teach 6 classes a day, 2 6, 2 7, and 2 8. And the constraint, we don't see the hybrid students every day. And basically, I'm teaching the same lesson for 2 days, and then we go on to a new lesson. And I will say part of that front loading is some of the things that we did, like parts of a recipe, setting up a tray, going through all of the safety things, that's done in Google Classroom. So that once we get into the labs, we're actually going over what we need to do in there and get starting to prepare meals or whatever is in their curriculum. So the next piece, beneficial effects of hybrid remote learning. Smaller classes for all teachers, we can engage with every student. And I will say I have formed much stronger relationships with the kids that we do have. And I'll also admit some kids really thrive in this environment. They really do, they really like that. Some kids really like the remote learning. It's just the individual kid. The other thing is it's made it a little bit easier to accommodate for differentiation in the curriculum and for students. And we got very creative with our assignments and lessons, and we shared great resources within our school, and students get more individual time with us. And I really love that aspect. And I have to tell you, another piece is discipline has been virtually nothing. It's just like you just do some redirection and that's been it. And the thing is with the smaller class, there's nobody to hide behind if you're a student that's not on task. So that's been pretty good. I really felt that it was important to put up some of the tools that you can use. The familyconsumerscience.com website has been great. If you go in there, you can see different tabs, and I'm sure many of you already have done this. You probably were like me, what am I going to do and how am I going to get myself, ready for remote learning? And this has been a godsend for me because basically what you did, you just go in and put a tab. So if you're looking at foods, if you're looking at pastry, you can just kind of go right in there. And I took some of the lesson plans that were in there that you could download. And basically I went and changed the ones that I liked. And one of my favorites was grain bowls. I really like that. I put that on there. So when my 8th graders were doing stir fry and I would do the demo online, they would make up their own grain bowl stir fry or whatever they wanted to use. And they were really great. The other thing is if you haven't used Cami, I'm sure some of you have, it's great. You can change your PDF files for student ease and use. And these were great for some of our kids that needed to have extra help or had an IEP or a 504. And Screencastify was fabulous. We had some issues early on where we had people that were from outside our SAU that were coming into our Google Class meets. And so basically until we fixed that issue, Screencastify was great. We all made videos and it saves them in your Google Drive for you. And we actually liked this so much. We asked our school to get the software for us. So now we can all make a video whenever we need to. And it's been really helpful for a lot of different reasons, but also different lessons that you may want. For example, I did the pretzel dough recipe and I videotaped that. So my kids that are remote saw that before I came on today and did a couple things with them live. So it was really cool to do that. Google Read and Write, great for students in a variety of ways, and it reads text to them for those students that really need help with that. Google Drive was good because you can organize your lesson plans and recipes. And what I do with my kids is before I go on live for like my remote kids, I post in Google Classroom what the recipe is, because the thing that I found out about being remote, as many of you might have experienced, not everybody knows how to cook from scratch. And when I started doing my live remotes from my kitchen, literally from my house, I had parents in the background and you could hear them in the background saying, hey, ask Mrs. J this, ask Mrs. J that. And they would ask for recipes. So I made them available so kids and their parents can cook right along with me. And it's pretty interesting because for a nation that where pretty much everybody eats out a lot, this was a really great thing. And I think it really brought a lot of families together. The other thing is Google Attendance Tracker. This is great. If you haven't got it, you need to download it because you just load your kids in there. And if you're worried about attendance, it tells you who's been in if they leave the Google Classroom. And like with me, I'm doing a demo, so I can see the kids and everything in my little window of where I am. But often I don't notice if a student leaves, and this keeps track. It gives you like a green line right across your screen, and you can tell who's in there for how many minutes, if they left, if they came back in, if they left and they didn't come back. So it's a really great way to track kids that are in, that you need to have in remote, especially for attendance purposes. And I have to tell you, I'm always learning something every day. And these are the tools that really helped me and kept me right on track. So I felt like everybody else, we've never experienced this before. This gave me a lot of confidence. And in turn, I had parents say, you know what, my kids are really worried about this, and you're just going in there and saying, hey, you know, we're all in this together and we'll get through it. And we did, and we proved that every week. So I think the last thing is just questions. And I'm not sure, I think we're going to save those for the end though.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracey. And two, the one thing that I was thinking is, did you say, yeah, when we were talking, it was amazing to me what you meant by small class sizes. Did you share how many students?
Yes, I have anywhere from 6 to 7 every other day. So I teach 6 classes every day. So 2, 6 to 7th to 8th, and so I have no more than 7 kids. So basically, what we did was took a full class and we split it up between 2 days. So that really makes a big difference when you're in there. So one child to every kitchen. And that's how we feel that we're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And now I will be kind of putting the presenter to Sarah so that she can share some about what's going on in her classroom.
So I teach high school. So some of the different things very similar, but also a little different than what Tracey was saying. So let me just present my screen here so we can see it all. So the first thing I wanted to show you was how our district is doing it. My district itself, we have 7 elementary schools. We just built a new middle school that houses all 7. We used to have 3 middle schools and now it's 1. And then we all come into 1 high school. So we have 2,800 kids here on a normal schedule. So with that, we started the first few weeks all virtual, which was a challenge, but it was much better this time around than in the spring, which I think all of us kind of feel that way. We were getting praises left and right. Local newspapers were talking about it because a lot of people were nervous as to what to expect, but it went really well. You know, we took attendance every day and they were actively engaged. And if the students like had their camera off, we called home and just checked in and said like, hey, is everything okay? And if, you know, mom or dad said, no, actually, we don't have internet access or we don't have anything, we put together an engagement team. And it was our counselors or admin. And then we even had admin like going to kids' houses and giving them a hotspot or making sure their computers were working or things like that. So we were all kind of in it together as a district, which was really nice. And then last week we started with our soft opening, which was Monday and Tuesday. We brought back just the face-to-face learners. So parents had the opportunity to choose, do they want to bring their kids back or would they prefer them to stay online? And then Wednesday, Thursday, just the all virtual learners logged on to a Google Meet while they were in class. So we have A through L comes on Monday, Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday is the M through Z students. Then starting this week, we started this hybrid schedule where same thing Monday, we have blue week and white week. Monday and Wednesday, oh, sorry, I clicked something. Monday and Tuesday, there it is, sorry. Monday, oh my goodness, I keep hitting them, I'm sorry. Monday and Wednesday and Friday is blue week. They come in person, and then when they're not in person, they are logging on to a Google Meet. So they are learning 5 days a week, which was a big push for us because other districts around us had them actually logged off on those days, and teachers were saying we're getting nothing accomplished. They're saying that, you know, on those off days, the students that are supposed to be doing the assignments aren't doing it. And then when they come into the room, they're expected to already have that stuff done and ready to move on, and they're not doing it. So to prevent that, they're still logging on. The hard part, I think, for me, because I'm cooking with my students, is I'm having to recreate assignments for my all virtual learners. So what I'm doing with my A through L and M through Z students can be different or can be the same, but then my remote learners, they need to have something new every day. So that's been my challenge right now. And my principal's been trying to give me ideas, and luckily he's wonderful, but they don't get it like we get it. It's just very different. So it has been good. It's nice. It is weird because the kids don't talk as much when they're online, but and it's a long day. So we're 7:25 to 2:15, and the students are online 7:25 to 2:15. So they're saying that's been the biggest struggle so far for them. I did use a Bitmoji Classroom. If you guys don't use it, I love mine. I post my lesson plans weekly. This is just a fun activity for them to do here. And then my Google Meet code and my syllabus is here always. The students have fun. I use this a lot for virtual learning. And then it took me to this. I post demos every week on here, and the students can always go back and find it. So I just post this in my Google Classroom, and I just add to it. And it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, the kids love it. And they know where to find everything. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for them because, as we know, Google Classroom, if you use it, can get kind of bogged down. So I like my Bitmoji Classroom, but not everyone likes to use it. So what I started to do when we were all virtual was I'm not allowed to require cooking at home. We have students of all different backgrounds, economical backgrounds, and maybe they're just not comfortable cooking at home. So I made choice boards, and I can show one at the end for us, but I did that. And then Tracey, we can show maybe one of the examples, but actually, Jenny, sorry. Yeah. But so what I did is I let them pick if they wanted to make the food, they could do that, or if they wanted to watch a video, answer questions, one of the options for it was I let them make a TikTok, and these students loved this. I got the biggest response. I did this in the spring too, so they had so much fun. I got to see cats and dogs and sisters and brothers helping out mom and dad. So I have 2 on here if she wants to help me out
Sure.
on that.
So the pancake one is coming first. I'll hit play.
Here I am washing my hands. Wash, wash, wash. My ingredients, yeah. Flour, gotta start with it. Brown sugar, gotta get 2 of those. Baking soda, of course, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Salt. There it is. Egg. Yup. Beat. Here I am beating the egg. Putting the butter all together, melting it. Now I'm putting all the ingredients together, spraying my pan, mixing the ingredients now. So here I am mixing the ingredients, pouring my pancakes on in a 1/4. Flipping the pancakes, flipping some more. Eating is delicious.
I told him I was using that and he got so excited. So like I said, the kids had a lot of fun with that. And I like to see their creativity come out while they're at home. Like I said, their other option was it started with a written response was a choice, watch a video and answer questions. And I give them recipes, I do a demo, and then it lets them kind of go off and take the lead. So I've had really good responses. My friends are now trying to figure out how to incorporate it into language arts, but they're having a rough time. So before I started cooking with my kids, my principal and I discussed getting approval from the health department. And this is kind of what I had to submit to them. We are working in pairs as opposed to groups of 4. And obviously masks are worn the whole time. We do their best to socially distance. They are not supposed to, this has been the biggest challenge. They're not supposed to share utensils. So if the student is the one that's cutting that week, then the next person is going to be the one stirring or gathering ingredients, but they're not supposed to share stuff unless they wash in between. So today I had to stop a kid who was sick of cutting chicken and have it be try to have another student. So I made him finish. I haven't had anyone wear gloves. I asked them that was an option they had. As we know, changing gloves and all of that, there's a lot more process to it than just washing their hands. So that's what we chose. Our health department approved it, and then I was allowed to start cooking. And here's some pictures of us from our first lab. They made puppy chow or no-bake cookies, and they had a lot of fun. And they enjoyed it. But it was nice to have some normalcy. So my class changes. I used to have 7 tables with 4 people per table. Students always pick their seats, and those were their groups. I now have 11 tables with 1 person per table, and even some student desks are at a kitchen for socially distancing. They're only working with a partner. My biggest class now has only 19 students, and that is a challenge with the 19 of them to spread them out. And I have to have a group of 3, which he said was okay. It's not ideal, but I don't have anywhere else to put that person. In my smallest class, I have 3 students, which is that picture down at the bottom. that's definitely a challenge for me because they also don't really know each other, so they don't talk a lot. But we're building rapport and relationships, and the students are having a lot of fun with it. So it is nice to get back in the kitchens and talk to each other, and watching them interact with each other has been great, especially this small group. The one student was from a private school, so this was her first year in public school, and she's like, I made friends now that I didn't have before. So, and that just warmed my heart, and I said, that's why I love what I do. So the biggest challenges I've experienced is students are not willing to talk as much, and I think it's because we've spread them out. They have the masks on, and they don't like to open up and talk as much, and I missed that part. Like I said before, creating 3 different lessons for 3 different groups, that's a big challenge. It's not the same experience as if we were non-COVID, but we are, so we make it work. The students who don't participate at home are missing out on material, not so much the cooking stuff, but I have students who turn their cameras off, or I know I had one fall asleep yesterday and he emailed me and apologized. I guess mom found out and she was not happy, but you know, he was marked absent all day because he fell asleep. So it is what it is. Everyone is behind, and I don't really have a tested subject, so it's not my biggest concern. I obviously have content I need to get to, but like Tracey even said, like we pick the important stuff and we focus on that. But you know, everyone's a little behind than where we normally would be. Students on IEPs are getting a good education and trying to be followed, but we're doing the best we can. It's not ideal, especially if they're all virtual learners. I have some students that based on their IEP, they get 5 days of education, which I think is awesome that they're getting that and we're able to work that in. Parents are as much of a wonderful thing, but also a bad thing. I'm getting tons of emails from mom like, hey, my student turned this in last night at 3 a.m. Where isn't it graded? Well, why is your student up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like, I understand that might be how you do things, but I'm asleep. So just constant amount of emails and trying to keep up with everything. Benefits, like Tracey said, definitely smaller class sizes are nice. Some students who struggle with being online or who struggle with other students are able to be online if that's easier for them. It's nice that we have this opportunity for families who are still not comfortable with the COVID situation. Our schedule promotes 5 days of learning, which I always appreciate, and I know that the district and the community appreciate as well. They want the kids in school, and so do we. We are prepared now for any student who needs to quarantine. In fact, I just got an email that one of my students came in contact with someone over the weekend, and she will be quarantining for 2 weeks, but we're already set up. We know what to do. She's virtual. She knows how to go on. She can still get the same lessons if we have to. Or if we have anyone out for a lengthy amount of time, surgery, things like that. It's so great to have students back in the building again. It feels like our principal calls it the heartbeat of the building, and I couldn't agree more. It's nice to hear hear them kind of talking in the hallway and laughing and that kind of stuff. Going from 4-person to a lab to 2 people in a lab, every person has a job. They have to get things done. We don't have a lot of time to waste, so they have to kind of get in there and get to work. And then with my freshman students, I have more one-on-one time with them. They're excited to be back in the building, and it's so good to see them now back here and learning the building and things like that. Something that we kind of talked about when the 3 of us met was how important FCS really became during the shutdown. You know, some people were just not comfortable ordering food to go, so they had to get on and jump on and learn how to do something. And you know, I had students that were like, I'm teaching my mom how to do this, and that kind of stuff was really great. And I shared a story with them that I had a student I had 4 or 5 years ago. Mom emailed me and said, hey, you haven't had my daughter in a few years, but we're running out of recipes. What can you send me? So that was kind of cool that, you know, we matter as much to the kids as we do to the families. So hands-on learning experience, they'll never get that anywhere else. It's something very special that we are able to provide for our kids, and I love that. My friends are super jealous who teach other classes because they are not allowed to do any sort of group work. They're not allowed to be close quarters to them. Like, they have to keep them separated. They come and they walk by my room and they see us talking and laughing and communicating and that collaboration that we get while we're in the kitchens, and they are so jealous. And I'm like, finally, you can be jealous of an elective class where usually they don't pay attention as much to us as an elective, and they focus on like language arts, but I'm getting praise all over the place, so we love that. It's good to see the kids proud of their work again. They were walking around, they made puppy chow last week, and they were walking around carrying it like they were king of the world, and it was really great to see. They love coming to school, they love coming to cooking labs, and that makes me happy. And I am learning my students and learning their names, even with their masks on, and being online, I'm still able to do that, and not everyone is able to do that. So that has definitely made things better. So, and that's all I have.
Well, that was absolutely wonderful. So thank you both for sharing your expertise, and we have questions definitely coming in. So I think that we'll have a good conversation, and please do keep writing in questions. You know, I always like to think of this as like a hive mind, and if you also have suggestions for the questions that we have out there, please chime in there as well. So Caroline asked the question, can you be more specific about what kind of products you're using currently to clean and sanitize?
Our school
And-
has a sanitizing product, and our custodians are really wonderful. I would not be able to have my labs open if it wasn't for them. And I wish I could tell you what it is. It has a number, and basically I leave the bottle out every night, they refill it, and I sanitize the counters. They sanitize at night, so I'm only responsible, I've always done this, so it's kind of a weird thing. I sanitize after every class, so at the last 5 minutes of class, who's ready to have their counters all sanitized, and I come around and do it. And it's yellow, I can tell you that. I can't tell you what it is just because it's a number. Our school gets sanitized, especially my lab, every night. So they just have a machine that goes in and does whatever it does. And then I do all the countertops, stovetops, things like that. Kids can, and I will say, my kids are only required to use gloves when they come up and get ingredients. So once they go through the supply table and get their ingredients, they can take their gloves off, but they have to have gloves on to get ingredients. And don't forget, they're only one, and I only have one class with 2 people in a lab. So
Wow.
yeah, I wish I could tell you what it is. I'm sorry. I can probably figure it out and get it to Jenny so you can get that information.
I'm at school still, so I can show you what we use. This is called Sanitation. It's a food contact surface sanitizer. I don't know what the rules are everywhere, but I know like we have to have like green chemicals. So they're not allowed to use bleach products or anything like that. So this one is used at restaurants, cafeterias, kitchens, and fast food operations. So that's what we use. This was provided by the district to every classroom. And then my students they sanitize their table after every day. And then in my kitchens, I just use Lysol, kitchen Lysol, antibacterial. I've used this forever, and that's what they sanitize their countertops with.
Excellent. Thank you both. Our next question comes from Kelly, and she asked, what state and county are you both in?
I'm New Hampshire in Cheshire County.
And I am in Medina County, Ohio.
Excellent. Wonderful. So that was an easier one, luckily for you both to answer. We were talking about what kind of questions might come up. So, and then Carolyn asked another question, and she said, do you allow students to remove masks and eat in the classroom, or do you have any concerns about asthma or allergy with the cleaning products you're using?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So because of the way my classroom is set up, is they are able to do so if they are comfortable. Some students just are not comfortable, and they are allowed to take their food with them. I don't have a lot of like Tupperware, but like last week with the puppy chow or the no-bake cookies, I bagged them up for them and they took them home with them. They're not allowed to eat in other classrooms, but they were allowed to eat at lunch, or like for the we're making chicken noodle soup this week. They're allowed to come and get a Tupperware and take it with them to lunch, and then bring it back to me and then wash it and go from there. But the way my classroom is set up now, they can do that. If I had my normal big tables with 4 people at a time, they couldn't do it. So, but like I said, some students just aren't comfortable with it, so I let them take it home. Some students, I know this is really hard for me because I always make my students take that no thank you bite. I don't require that this year. So, you know, they feed their friends, they take it home, they feed mom, whoever, I don't care. I just remind them that they did pay for the class, so I don't want to waste it. As for the asthma, I am not, but I also know, like, I have certain kids who are teaching, I teach 10th grade, so they're pretty open and honest. They're like, hey, I can't use that stuff because it's going to make me break out. So then I'll sanitize for them, or someone else will do, or like the kid who comes in first next, I'll say, hey, no one sat there for a couple periods, you might want to wipe that down. They don't need to know that the student ahead of them couldn't do it. So that's how I do it. Plus, we were provided some gloves if the students really want to do it, but don't feel comfortable touching it. We have gloves for them too.
Our school, they're allowed to eat because there's only 6 to 7 kids in a class and they're spread out. I have 6 tables, so they can eat there. They cannot be in each other's kitchen, so they have to stay in their own kitchen. And there's 4 kitchens in the center. I wish I thought to put a picture up there, but I didn't. And then 2 along the wall. And so they can take it with them, but they have to bring it to their backpack to their classroom. And our kids are middle school, so we provide a lot of mass breaks during the day. So I say, okay, this is going to be a great snack for you in the afternoon for a mass break. 8th graders are doing entrees, so they are allowed to take what they make. Say they're making mac and cheese, they're allowed to take that down to the lunchroom for lunch. And I actually have containers that I got and I provide for them and just kind of wrap them up for them. Like tomorrow they're making pizza and they will definitely take that to lunch with them.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And then our next question comes from Kelly, and she said, can you share your request to the health department, Sarah? When you were talking about you went directly to the health department.
Yeah, how would you like me to do that? Do you want me just to put it
I
up?
can make you the presenter and then you can share it if you have.
Okay.
Oh, you still are the presenter, so you can share your screen.
Okay, I have to figure out how to do that again.
I can send it to you again so that way you get the notification.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really good with Google Meet. I can do all of that.
Every platform's different, you know? It's one of the wonderful challenges.
I'm very fortunate. I have really great tech savvy people on my team. I'm Allied Arts and they help us out all the time.
Can you read it? Oh, I just hit the next one. There we go.
Maybe present so it can get a little larger.
I think the big thing was just reminding them that in my classroom, I have 7 sinks and my students are able to stand up and wash their hands whenever they feel oh, I keep doing that. I'm so sorry. Whenever they need to. So that helps.
Yeah. And we'll leave that up on the screen for a little bit, but I'll move to the next question from Carolyn, who said, do you have any hints for sewing labs?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. I have remote learners. I'm going to have 6th grade, and right now I have a 7th grade remote class. I have 6th grade next time. I have a ladybug, and I'm sending home the sewing project. And I'll give Nasco a plug because the place that I used to buy all my sewing products from went out of business a couple years ago. So thankfully Nasco picked up a lot more of those things that we can use, and they have great felt. So they make a felt bag. I teach them the blanket stitch, and I do it with my ladybug, and so that they can see really details. And then I send home, they choose the pattern and the color, and I send home the supplies, and then they can make it and just show it right on the screen. My 8th graders normally have a sewing unit where they just make a zippered bag where you zip the sides on and you actually sew the bag inside out. And just so you know, New Hampshire, family consumer science is a requirement during middle school. It's an elective during high school. So we try to really give them, you know, as much as we possibly can in the 3 years that we see them. And I see every student every year, so it's really great to build on the curriculum every year. But that ladybug has been a lifesaver because I can actually show them you know, what I want them to do, and they get to put a funky button on there and, you know, sew on the button in another way that's a transferable skill. So those are skills that they're always going to have once they learn them. I hope that helps.
Wonderful. And then our next question comes from Andrea, and she asked the question, what type of foods are being prepared or planned for the high school students to make in class? And how many class meetings does it typically take to prepare a food product?
So for me, I typically like to do a prep day and eat day. I only have 50-minute class periods, and I find that if I try to rush it, some certain people would like to shovel their food in their faces like they've never had food before. So I like to split it up into 2 days, giving them some time to relax and eat so they don't make themselves sick. So like this week, like I said, we start with pancakes, and then I did omelets, as you saw in the videos, and then chicken noodle soup we're doing this week. Next week I do chicken Alfredo. All of my food is based off of what I'm talking about. So it's a cooking and nutrition course. So next week we'll start our nutrition unit, and we'll talk about carbohydrates, and then they make chicken Alfredo. And then we talk about fiber, and then I do like an appleberry brunch bake. So, and like I said, I always do like a prep day where today, like they cut carrots, celery, onions, and raw chicken. And then the next time I see them, whether that's tomorrow or Friday, they will get the opportunity to cook and boil the noodles for the chicken soup, and then sit down and eat. So that's how I break it down.
Okay, and then Lori asked, do you actually have your students measure products from communal containers, or are you concerned about students emitting droplets while measuring?
When students come up to the supply table in my class, they have gloves on, they have a mask on. And I have bigger containers. And so when they measure, and I make them measure because I feel that that's just so important. It's like, you need to give them the tools to be successful, and measuring is key, because the two things that go wrong in a recipe are measuring incorrectly or not following the directions. So they come up in their bigger containers, they scoop the flour, overfill, level it off, put it in their bowls and things. And of course, you know, in between using ingredients, they wash their hands. But, you know, really, that was never, we talked about that in doing this, but that was never really a concern because everybody's wearing a mask, including me. So they're on one side of the supply table, I'm on the other side. It's like an island in the middle. And so all the ingredients are lined up in the order that they're going to use them, dry first, then wet, or however the recipe works out. So yeah, that's not something that, whether that's right or wrong, that I really felt that was going to be an issue, because they have masks on, I have a mask on, and they also have gloves on. So
and for me, I only allow one person at my supply area at once. I did have to move my supply area. And I think because they're not around each other, I'm not so concerned about. And like we're washing our hands all the time. I mean, the first thing they do is go in the kitchen, wash their hands. Then they get their stuff down, they come measure, wash their hands. So because they're washing their hands so much, I'm not so concerned about it. And like I said, I think because they're not bunched together all in one area. And like you said, I mean, masks are on the entire class period, myself included, and the students. And I have to say, I am blown away at how great the kids are with wearing masks. I mean, just, they don't even think about it. It's on their faces and they're wearing it all day. So very lucky in that.
So Andrea asked Sarah, you specifically, curious as to how many lessons it would take for your students to make the mac and cheese and pizza in class, and what will they accomplish each of those days?
Tracey, that was you. I think you were doing mac and cheese and pizza.
Oh, okay. One day. I have a great recipe. We make the roux. I go over roux beforehand, tell them what it's about. It's a microwave recipe. So simple. The butter, the flour, salt and pepper, the cheese that you put in, and you just stir. It's 4 minutes. 1 cup of like the milk and the cheese, and 3 tablespoons of flour, and you stir after every minute. 4 minutes, and it's the best cheesy sauce that you've ever had. It's really good. The longest thing that takes the most, and what I do is I put the pots of water on ahead of time so that they're boiling by the time the kids come in. And I cut the recipe in half too, so that they're getting just a little bit more than a single serving, because after all, there's one kid in each kitchen, and they still have time enough to eat, and they still have time enough to clean up. And we have about 50 minutes, so it's a great recipe for them.
When I make mac and cheese, it's also a one-day lab for me as well. Same idea. But yeah, I'm also having to cut recipes in half. That was, I found that out with the puppy chow. It originally was making 10 cups of rice cereal, and the first group did it, and I was like, what are the two of you going to do with all this puppy chow? So on the fly, we cut it down really quick, and it made it a lot more reasonable for two people. I didn't even think about it.
That's wonderful. So a question just popped in as you were talking, so I'm going to go to that one next, because Carolyn asked if either of you would be willing to share your mac and cheese recipe.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure thing.
So
That's what
Carolyn,
we're here for.
I'll get the mac and cheese recipe and then connect it with you after the webinar today. And if anybody else is interested in that as well, there's an email address that would be perfect for you to reach out to us to. It's if you respond to like the survey, even you can throw it in the survey, and that is engage@nascoeducation.com. So that's the word engage@nascoeducation.com, and I will put that in the chat responding to everyone so you can see that as well, because we would love to hear from you, and if you have any recipes too that you want to share with folks, we would love to see those. In fact, Nasco is working right now on a giveaway where we will be sending out an email coming up at the end of the month. So open your emails from Nasco, where if you share with us your favorite recipe to teach, we've got some new product that we will be doing a drawing for in order to kind of start getting some of that collective knowledge out there. And too, if you are enjoying today, we have some more questions still coming in. Please keep them coming, but also know that we hope to do this again. So if you want to be in the hot seat like Sarah and Tracey and share some of your knowledge, I think they'd tell you it's not too painful, and we would love to feature more teachers' voices because of course you all know what's happening way better than anyone like me who isn't in the classroom, who isn't experiencing this, and teaching's like that anyways. You know, most times if you're not in it and doing it, it's hard to understand, but especially I feel like in this COVID world where everything is so different than it was before. So we will go to the next question, which is for Tracey, and she said specifically, Tracey, do you have a pattern for that ladybug project? Because she asked if you can purchase the ladybug from Nasco, but I don't know of a ladybug kit that we have. Do we have one?
The ladybug is actually a projector, and it projects up onto your desk, so I can do it in my kitchen. And I do have patterns for the little bags. They're just a square bag. One is a wide one, one's a longer one. And basically, I teach kids with the ladybug projector on how to do the blanket stitch, just because I think it's really kind of a nicer stitch rather than just an overhand. And they have a flap that goes over. I show them how to make the slit in the top and then how to attach the button. And I have really funky buttons, flowers and like little cars, you name it. And kids really like that because it's something that they make, and usually around the holidays they make that for a parent or a brother or sister or something. But it's just sort of like an introduction to hand sewing. And Nasco has the best felt, so colorful.
I did want to just quickly show our website because we have a couple of products that are individual kits for sewing. We have Claire the cat, who is right here and I think is just adorable. And then we also have a brand new lesson plan that's available that's about sewing masks because of course it is an unprecedented kind of growth in mask wearing. So we worked and came up with this lesson plan on sewing 2 different types of masks. And then the kits are brand new. They're actually being shot in our photo studio this week. So there's no images yet, but then have a full classroom kit with the material, some pipe cleaner, the elastic that you need in order to sew 24 different masks for a classroom full of students. And that image will be coming up soon. It's just, like I said, being photographed this week now that we have all of those kits made. So I just wanted to share those couple mask projects that we do have and sewing projects that we do have from Nasco, and then I'll stop sharing again. And we'll move on to the next question, which is, can we see the choice board again? And that question comes from Pamela.
Sure, let me pull
I'll make
that.
you the presenter.
Okay. That's not the right one. Share my screen. That's not the right screen. I swear I'm not typically losing my mind this much. Let me go here. So this is the one I did for my first lab. So this has the recipes. This was all of their options. And this is what like I need to see in it. So that way I know that they're actually doing it. I have been, students have tried to fool me by sending me Google image searches. And I go, well, that's interesting, but I don't know that's you. So I like to make sure that they're in it. Choice 2 was to watch a video. This video was, I can't remember which one I picked, but there's a great series right now that's like amateur, pro, or level 1, 2, or 3 step chef. And I let them like see things. And actually this one was America's Test Kitchen. And I let them talk about safety sanitation. I did a demo and I had them kind of compare what they saw to that versus my demo. Or then answer choice 3 was to write a response, which, as I'm sure you guys will be really surprised to hear, no one chose that. So I kind of stopped giving them the written response because most kids don't want to write a 1-page essay. So they've just chosen to do the video questions or just make the food at home.
Okay, wonderful. And then we have another question coming in that is from Tim, and what he said is, I guess it's more of a comment. He commented that the family engagement has been really wonderful with families also looking for kind of communal recipes. And I know that that's something that Tracey and Sarah have talked about with me before. Did you want to share any stories that you have on? Okay.
I was really very surprised when I first started doing demos when we were fully remote. And I would get at the end of class this little voice that said, Mrs. Jillison, my mom wants to know this direction. And I said, okay, so I would stay on and give parents directions. And then what would happen was, Mrs. Jillison, my mom wants to know this, or my dad wants to know this. My gram says that she made this, and could you do this with it? And what I realized was people were running out of options. So what I did was I posted in Google Classroom all of the recipes that I was going to be using that week. And I said, if you would like to do it with me while I cook, these are the items that you're going to need. And I also put a list of alternatives. So like if you didn't have eggs, you could use yogurt, you could use applesauce, whatever, you know, like things like we were making muffins. And it was really, the response was really great. So I just made sure that I had those recipes up week in and week out. Then my colleagues started calling and says, hey, banana bread, that recipe that you use in banana bread, do you have that? And so I would just put out whatever week's recipes that I was doing in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And one of the most popular was a very simple, very easy apple crisp. It's done in the microwave, and I like that recipe because my 6th graders get to use as many tools in the kitchen as I could get their hands on. And so basically they use the vegetable peeler, and then they use the corer and slice up the apples and add all the ingredients and put them 2 minutes in the microwave and it's done. And then to, you know, give them the grand finale, I would pull one student out of the kitchen and show them how to make whipped cream. And I actually did that in my own kitchen. And I said, it's going to get loud, you're going to hear the beaters, but this is what it is. And parents wanted that recipe too, because what we found was people were eating out a lot. And the one thing that remote learning taught me was it brought families back together, which I think is really wonderful. And people started cooking from scratch again.
Yeah, I agree. That's really funny because my hallway friend started a shared doc, and anytime I would do a lesson with my students, I was to add that recipe to that shared doc for them because they needed fun stuff to do. So, and I was getting pictures of my friend's son turned 1, and part of what they did while he was there was getting him on like one of those platforms and letting him like, you know, learn how to mix. I mean, he wasn't really mixing, he's 1, but he was, you know, attempting to. So that was fun for me. But yeah, definitely agree that the family engagement part of this has been really, really different than what I expected it to be. I know my husband and I both tried new recipes ourselves, and I didn't have as many kids. It was not, learning was not, I don't say learning. Google Meets were not required for our students. So they just had to do their assignments, and I wasn't trying to hunt them down to get them done. So I didn't do a lot of live demos, but I shared a lot of videos, and I like to show them worst cooks in America, because I was like, hey, even at the end of the day, you're not as bad as that. So they appreciated me building them up a little bit, and then they go, okay, maybe I will try making this for my family or something like that. So
That's wonderful. And then what's likely going to be our last question we have coming from Andrea. And she said, can you recommend any sources for delicious but quick recipes that you like to go for?
To be honest with you, I really love allrecipes.com for a variety of reasons. And one of them is if you want to just do it for like 3 people or 2 people, it will automatically cut the recipe in half for you. But it also gives you alternatives of if you don't have the exact ingredients. And that's been key, because I'm sure you've all noticed, flour and sugar, all your basic essentials when you're cooking were missing for many, many months. It took them a while to get them back in the stores again. And that was good. And it would also tell you, if you stick in your zip code, the closest store that has those ingredients, and it also tells you which ones are on sale. And one of the recipes that I experimented was fajitas, and I found a really great recipe. It's super easy. It's chicken, and my son and my husband really liked it, and I brought it in for my 8th graders, and they just thought it was like the greatest thing. And it was simple and easy, and it's on allrecipes.com. And the other thing is they show you a video, and they tell you how much time it takes. So you can gauge right away by looking at it. Do you have enough time to do this in class or not? So allrecipes.com is really my go-to. And I found that I just found a variety of recipes in there that really work. And I don't know if I mentioned this. My kids, sixth grade does snacks and breakfast. 7th grade is an all baking unit, from crepes to pretzels, things like that. And 8th grade is entrees, so mac and cheese. We do orzo primavera, pizza, stir fry, things like that. So
I agree. I use all recipes as well. I think too, the nice thing is like, there are sometimes like I have an extra week built in somewhere, and if the kids aren't trying to find anything, then I'll type in like high fiber recipes, and then it kind of filters it for me, so then I can pick and choose things, and then I can click around, and it has a really good search bar too with it. So all recipes is definitely a go-to for me.
At Nasco too, we also partner sometimes with the Home Baking Association, and I know that they have and launched a lot of recently, since kind of COVID's really begun, put out a lot more recipes than they did before too. So home baking could be a good one. And then to wrap up, I want to thank Sarah and Tracey for sharing all of their expertise. I know I've always learned so much when listening to them talk, our couple of conversations, and I hope that it was beneficial to everyone here. As I mentioned before, there is a survey that will launch as soon as the webinar closes. So please do fill out that survey. If you think it is something you'd be interested in coming on a webinar with Nasco, please indicate that as well. And I would love to have a conversation and hopefully have another one of these in the spring, a couple months from now. So not like, December when everybody's unwinding and thinking about family, hopefully. And I also wanted to read one last comment that came in from Pamela too, because it sounds fun. And she said, last year I did an easy, wacky cooking project for extra credit, and the students really loved the idea of making it a wacky project. So just amazing, innovative things happening out there in the FCS world. And I want to thank you all for chiming in and for joining us today. Also in that email that is going to come out in about an hour or so, it'll have this video recorded. So if there's anything you want to go back to, look at again, you'll be able to do that. And there also will be a certificate of completion for spending this hour with us, so that hopefully you can file that and have it count as some credit hours for professional development. And I want to thank you all again and hope to see you at another webinar. And again, Tracey and Sarah, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Jenny. It was fun. It was a lot
Take
of
care.
fun. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.